Hey, Autumn Athletes, Larry Sorensen here, and today I'm going to chat with Robert Whitaker to find out what makes him an Autumn Athlete that's not done yet. Before we get started, remember if you enjoy our content, hit that subscribe button. All right, Robert, thanks so much for joining us today. Why don't you start us off with an introduction?
Thanks, Larry. I'm Rob Whitaker, 66 years old, born 1958 in Memphis, Tennessee, is where I originally hail from. And through my Air Force career, I traveled all around, landed where I'm at now in Yorktown, Virginia. Have a wife of 45 years, Sherry, and I have two sons, and I have three grandchildren, two granddaughters and one grandson. I had an 26-year Air Force career. Did after that, I worked for the government for 8 years as a systems engineer, and my wife and I currently own five nothing but cakes bakeries. And both of my sons are involved in that business, and they're currently running things as I continue to try to step back and be retired.
All right, well, great to meet you. So we're going to talk about your activities that you're doing now, but I'd like to find out a little bit about your history. So, did you play any sports or do anything as a youngster, and then maybe throughout your life up until you got involved with masters track and field?
No, I was not an athlete. In high school, I was in on the ROTC rifle team. I was an expert marksman and competed doing that. I always looked at the track guys with envy because I had their physique, but for some reason I just never got into it. And so fast forward to back to my Air Force career, and I was had gotten an assignment to the Pentagon, and they said, everybody's got your gym's time slot. Here's yours, 10 o'clock in the morning. And so I started going to the gym. And at the same time, the Air Force reinstituted their fitness test of a 1.5 mile run. So I started training for that. And so I was doing that pretty good. And then I got my assignment down here to Langley Air Force Base, and one of the contractors that was working for me says, "Hey, you're pretty fast. You need to come race with us." And so I started road racing in 2005. I think I was 46 years old when I raced my first race, and I found out how slow I really was. So uh, the competitive bug bit me hard, and so I asked around and said, "Well, what do I need to do?" And they said, "Well, Google Hal Higdon." So I started my first training plan using a Hal Higdon training plan off the internet, and then I started getting fast. And so I I clocked my first sub 18 5K when I was 50 years old, and and about the same time, I left here, and then I moved to Huntsville, Alabama, where I was there for 8 years doing the system engineering thing, and I continued to be fast, get fast, and faster at different. Uh, Mostly we run at the time were 5Ks. I went up to 10Ks, half marathon, all the way to the full marathon, and continued to get fast in my mid 50s.
You've had some really good success here in your 60s, and we're going to talk about those highlights in a few minutes. But first, I want to know, through this master's track career, have you had any kind of injuries you've had to deal with or setbacks? And how did you manage through them if you did?
I've been blessed. I haven't had anything major go wrong. Uh, Coming out of my when I turned 60, that's when I started running track uh, more than road racing, and so uh, I had a really good indoor track season when I just turned 60. Coming out of there, and we went to Poland for the World Championships, and I got pretty humbled, running ninth and tenth at the world level. Even though that was pretty good finishing, but I was I was motivated to get to that level, to get to the world class level, and so coming out of there, I I started training really hard and ran right into the injuries. And I had every injury you can have. It started with, the Achilles and then the calf and then the hamstring and had piriformis issues. I had plantar fasciitis. I mean, I had every injury below the waist that you could have. And I did that for 2 years and just could not break out of that cycle. And then when I finally did, I spent another 2 years training more smartly up until the point where I'm at now. And I feel like I'm almost back to the level of where I was when I was M60.
Tell us about some of your maybe your PRs, your championships, so forth. Just fill us in on all of your athletic highlights.
The biggest one on my list is I do have a world record. I was invited last year outdoor nationals to run on the M65 4x800 team with Tim Owen, Dave Westenburg, and Michael Lebold, and we set the M65 world record. And wow, that's huge. And I was just tickled to death to be invited, and then we knocked the world record down, and that was really neat. Further back in my career, I did win the national RRCA 5K uh, national championship in 2011. That was a big moment for me. I hold 10 Alabama state records. 10 of them, I did have 11. 10 of them still hold.
And those are all records on the road racing records.
Yes.
Okay.
I don't have any track records to speak of. Um, on the track, I've had good success on the track. When I was M60, as I mentioned, my training partner, Steve Chantry, got me into track. And when I was M60, I managed a bronze and two silvers running behind him. So that was my introduction really to track. And then this year I had a good year with running with the Greater Philadelphia Track Club. Uh, we had a relay gold and a relay silver, and then I had an individual silver and individual bronze. So it was a good year this year for me.
And what events were those individuals in?
The 1500 and the 800. The
And what
1500 should be my best race, and so I did squeak out a silver, but Mark Carver managed to he laid down the last lap and killed us all. So I'm still looking for that individual national championship. I don't have one yet, but
yeah.
I'm getting closer, I think.
And what were the times in those events this last year?
My 800 was 2:37, and the 1500 was 5:14. I have run faster than that recently, and I don't know if it was the heat and humidity there in Huntsville for outdoors, but all the times seemed a little bit slower. But
And then aren't you a Hall of Famer as well?
oh yeah, the local area here is called the Virginia Peninsula. It consists really of three track clubs: the Colonial Roadrunners, Peninsula Track Club, and the Tidewater Striders. Collectively, they have a Hall of Fame, and I did get put into that Hall of Fame for my body of work in this area, and that was about 3 years ago, 2021.
Yeah.
That was definitely a highlight.
All right. So obviously you've been successful. You continue to be successful. We want to know how you do that. So tell us a little bit about your training regimen. You worked your way through those injuries and so forth, and now you're doing well. So fill us in on a typical day of training, maybe a typical cycle in season, off season, what you do maybe for cross training off the track. Just kind of fill us in on that overall fitness training that you do.
Well, I had a lot of people wonder why I'm active 7 days a week, but I feel like that I've got to be doing something every day, and so I've changed my training program up a little bit, and I run 6 days a week, and then I cross train one day a week. The cross training is a mixture of a bike, and then I've discovered through one of my training partners an elliptico, which is a stand-up bike with an elliptical type movement.
Yeah.
Great aerobic workout. So I do that to cross train to give some of my running muscles an opportunity to rest. Um, but I run the other 6 days of the week, and I have the kind of the typical, well, running routine. I do intervals, and probably the difference is I do two sets of intervals a week. I do a set of 200s and a set of 400s
Okay.
during my training week, and then the other days is, and then I do one tempo type run.
So if you're going out to do 200s, give us a little idea of how many, what kind of rest, what kind of times.
So right now I'm doing my routine is 15. I do 15 200s, and earlier this year before the track meet, I was running real fast, like 37s. I've dialed them back on purpose because I don't want to stay at that hard of a level. And so I do 15 and around 39 to 40 seconds.
Okay.
And then I'll do on the 400s, I do 400s, and I'm running them at about 120, 128, and I'll do 10 of those.
And what kind of recovery between?
So the 200s is a 200 recovery,
Okay.
and in the 400, it's a jog, and that's same for the 400s. I do sometimes. I'm not doing them now, but perhaps later in the fall, I'll do 400s with just a 200 recovery. But right now, they're 400s with a 400 recovery.
And then do you do any weight training? And if so, what kind of weight training do you do?
I have a runner's routine, which is squats, and I do those with weights. I don't go to the gym, but I do a routine, runner's strength routine
Yeah.
in my home with some plyometrics, and I've just started doing a little bit of a yoga mixed in with those.
So you're obviously very active in your training. How do you feel your body? Do you follow any particular dietary plans, or tell us a little bit about how you eat?
We try to eat healthy in general. I don't have a specific diet. I don't follow and measure, uh, you know, what type of stuff that I intake. But we eat a lot of chicken, a lot more chicken and fish than we do red meat, and and obviously mixed in with the appropriate vegetables. Uh, I do have a sweet tooth, so I try to eat fruit at least for when I eat some of that sweet tooth. I'll eat an orange or a nectarine, but at some point in the day, I gotta have a piece of chocolate somewhere in there.
Well, I was going to say, since you own the nut and bun cake, it's hard to say sometimes. Um, do you feel the need to go in and sample those, or how does that work? How do you stay away from those?
Well, I have to stay away from them. So when we first opened our bakery in 2015, my wife and I worked inside the bakery every day, and I quickly gained 8 pounds. So I said, well, I can't do that. So we definitely, and I no longer work inside the bakery, so I'm not there every day. But we eat a bundt cake about once a month. And the reason for that is they have now are doing what's called pop-up flavors. So these new neat pop-up flavors, like right now is one that's a Snickers. Uh, and so, and it's bundt cakes is doing some mashups with other brands like Oreo, Snickers, and so you have to eat those. You have to go and try them. But I keep it down to, like I said, about one a month.
Yeah.
But I have to stay away from them because even though I'm a light 138, I still am very mindful of my weight.
What's on the horizon for you? Are you chasing any particular uh, records or meets? Are you looking forward to any championships? Tell us what's in your future.
I'm in training for the indoor nationals, which will be early next year, 2026. That's the next big meet. Uh, En route to there, I'm going to run some local road races. I have wanted to work on my 5K times. I haven't been really road racing for the last 2 years a lot. Um, but I have the goal to get the Virginia State record, which is a very hard to do at 18:37 for M65. One of my one of my club mates laid that down last year, and that's a hard
Yeah.
mark. But I had originally wanted to get the 5K, 10K, and the half marathon records, and he put those out of reach. So, but I'm gonna train. I'm training, doing some specific work to try to get that 5K time.
Yeah.
And then, of course, indoor nationals, you know, I know that some guys that didn't come this summer are going to be there next winter, and so I've got to train hard.
And where are the indoor nationals scheduled to be at next year?
I haven't seen it on their website yet, but I was told it's going to be in Albuquerque,
Oh,
uh, which is supposed to be a fast track. There's some altitude to contend with, but it's also supposed to be a fast track. So
yeah.
uh, my buddy Blake Woods whispered that in my ear. I said, "Hey," I said, "Yeah, I'm coming. And we come to your home track."
So at 66 years old, what is the motivation to keep driving and pushing yourself?
Well, competition has kind of been ingrained with me from a very young age, and I kind of backpedaled to when I was in the Air Force. I was I had to compete to get in the Air Force, and then I competed for a pilot training slot and got that. And then once I started flying, then I had to compete for a fighter slot. I flew F-4 Phantoms, and then all the years I flew F-4 Phantoms, we competed every day. I mean, it was bomb shores, it was, dogfighting shores. It was every day you strapped on the jet, you were competing against your peers, but it was all designed to make you better. I mean, we wanted to sharpen our skills every single day, and that mindset just carries through with me and everything I do. I mean, my butt bakeries are killing it, because we've set them up for success.
Yeah.
So the competitive hours and whatever you do, one of my mantras is continuous self-improvement. And I just can't go out there and run every day without, reaching for the bar, as we call it, reaching for the brass ring. A national championship, obviously is still an unmet goal of mine. So I'm still working towards that. And that right now is predominantly the big fuel for the fire.
You mentioned a little bit about your Air Force, and first of all, I want to say thank you for your service. You mentioned a little bit about what you do there, but I don't know, give us maybe a little more detail, whatever you want, whether it's how you got into the service or what you did throughout the service, or you talked about some lessons you've learned. Tell us a little bit about that experience.
So I mean, I entered the Air Force in 1981 and went to pilot training. I was blessed with the ability to strap on a fighter jet. It's like I can't believe that they paid me to do that. I mean, it was just it. I mean, there's a lot of work, hard work, long hours, a lot of dedication required, but uh, but the people that were around me were all like-minded, and to do that, I mean, we were honing our skills for the eventuality that we would have to go to real combat, and some of my peers did in the Gulf War and so forth. I did not. At that point in my career, I had transitioned into space operations. And I did that as a career move because I was going to be about the 11-year point in my career, they decided I needed to go fly at desk, as we called it. And so it was my turn to do non-flying duties. So I didn't want to just fly the desk. So I got selected to go into space operations, and I went there, did that for about 7 years. And then I came back here at Langley Air Force Base, and I worked in the reconnaissance office, and it was where the space world and the airplane world met. And so I did for 6 years, I did aerospace integration activities, and really cool stuff. I mean, bleeding edge technology, and uh, just was really neat to see things that still you can't openly talk about.
Yeah.
Uh, And then that parlayed into a really great job at the Pentagon. And so I went to the Pentagon, did a 3-year tour there, and that's like when I talked about I started really running.
Yeah.
And then coming out of the Pentagon, I asked to come back down here to Langley because this is where my wife and I wanted to retire. And so they sent me back here to Langley Air Force Base for my retirement job. And and I ended up my career doing some really cool stuff. I worked with the Thunderbirds, laying out their schedules, and then we got to go to the Air Force Memorial dedication, and they had a team on the ground, and I was in charge of that team. So there were there was the Thunderbirds, and then there was a host of about 20 other airplanes flying over there, and I orchestrated
Oh,
the air
wow.
part of that for the Air Force Memorial dedication. And President Bush was there. It was just so cool.
Yeah.
A really good capstone for my career.
I got to ask, what was your call sign?
Habu,
Habu?
Habu.
And what was the story behind that?
The Habu is when I was at Langley, one of the aircraft in my portfolio was the SR-71.
Oh,
And my youngest son was fascinated with the SR-71. So he would always ask me, well, what's the top speed? And it's like, well, that number is still classified.
uh,
He goes, but you know it, don't you? And I'm like, yeah. So I started getting him books on the SR-71. Well, as he read them, well, then I had to read them. And I found out that Habu was what they called the SR-71 crew. And so that's just the story behind that call sign.
yeah,
But
yeah.
I just fell in love with the name Habu.
All right. And then, of course, very briefly, what are your thoughts on some of the fighter pilot movies and so forth? Do you have fun when you watch, you know, Top Gun and some of these others and kind of look at it like that's not really how it works?
I was still flying when the first Top Gun movie came out, and they actually did really well. I mean, you know, you're in the cockpit, and you know how that stuff goes. And there were some realism issues, but overall they did really well. And then the second Top Gun movie, it was like, wow. I mean, they really nailed it. It was so good. I had all my running buddies. We all went to the Top Gun movie together, and then afterwards we spent an hour dissecting what it was all about and the realism and all that. But they did really well, and aviators really like those movies.
Yeah. Well, I tell you what, Robert, it's been a pleasure talking with you, finding out what makes you an autumn athlete that's not done yet. I'd like to wrap up today by giving you the floor to just give our audience some parting thoughts.
I started this thing as a master's runner, already a master's runner, and over the years, the thing that I keep going down to, I'm an engineer by trade. I didn't talk about my degree, but I have a computer science degree and a master's in aerospace technology. So I'm kind of an engineer. I did some system engineering, but I get into the science of running. Jack Daniel's running formula, and I'm studying some other stuff right now, especially for a master's runner. You just can't bend the needles to the right. You run yourself right into injury. So trying to find out where that ragged edge is and stay on that ragged edge is what I try to do. And I try to use the science to help me do that. And that's why when you talk about those running paces and stuff, I know every day when I go out to run what I want to run and how slow or fast I do or don't want to go.
Yeah.
So you have to rein it in a little bit. You can't go out there every day and just run the wheels off because you will run the wheels off.
All right. Well, there you go, folks. Robert Whitaker. He is definitely an autumn athlete that's not done yet. Remember, keep moving, set your own goals, and train hard to achieve them. Thanks so much for watching, and we will see you next time.